Shalom, Baruch Haba, welcome. Boker, good morning. We welcome you to this morning's teaching. Announcements for this week: Judaism 101 class from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we welcome you to join us for that. Then the classes for this week: the advanced grammar class will be this week, and we apologize we did not have it. We had to cancel last week because they fumigated the building, and so we walked into the green gas, the kryptonite or whatever. So anyway, so we had to cancel the class. We had no forewarning that it was going to happen. It just, we came in and they had a sign on the door, posted on the door that they had fumigated, so we could not have class. So we had to cancel. So we will take off, and we're studying the passive participle, the Hebrew passive participle in the grammar class, the advanced class, the tree of life. We're beginning the Sephirah, the attribute of Yesod, of foundation. So we finished Malchut, and so we're going to the second one, which is Yesod. So we'll be starting that Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Thursday night, we will be having our final lesson for this semester, this part. We're finishing up the Aleph Bet. We did Shin on this past Thursday, and so this coming Thursday we will finish with Tav, and this will be the last beginner's class for a time. I need to take a break and catch my breath and regroup, and then probably in September, if we have enough to start a new class, we'll start a new class in September. So that would be, those are any other announcements for the class. Anything else? Be praying for Joshua. We apologize, the liturgy just is not the same without him leading us, and so that's why the music was the way it was this morning, because he just sings. He doesn't care what anybody else is doing or whatever. He just sings, and that allows me to focus on playing the guitar or playing with the guitar, whatever. But when he's not here, then I'm trying to pull double duty there, trying to read the notes and keep the tune in my mind and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I get lost anyway, but more lost than usual. So anyway, pray for him, both of us, and actually pray for me too. Both of us have had very bad sinus headaches all this week, with weather changes and everything going on. And his headache this morning was violent enough that he had become nauseous, and so he was not able to make it. So pray for his recovery. Also, glad to announce the arrival of baby Kara. She came in Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and she is a tiny little thing. I mean, she's like she's just like, really, she's, yes. So, a verbal?
No, the glowworm.
Oh, I thought. So Charity, you called her a jerk. But anyway.
Starting problems. I know on live stream.
So anyway, thank you for your prayers concerning that, and we thank the Lord for the arrival of this new little one. So anyway, all right. So we're in Shemot. We're in the book of Exodus, chapter 19, and this morning, verse 15. Exodus chapter 19 and verse 15. Moshe has gone up the mountain, received the instructions from Hashem, and now he comes down to deliver those instructions to the people. And so verse 15, Moshe says to the people, "Be ready for 3 days. Do not go near a woman." Ve'omer el ha'am, and he said to the people, Heyu nachnim, this is lish l'shet yamim. That's for 3 days, literally for 3 days. And then here, tigshu el isha. Tigshu el isha. Do not go near a woman. El being the negative, no. Tigshu, to be near, Isha, a woman. Do not go near a woman. So, curious thing here. Why not go near a woman? Now, many translations have there, "Do not approach your wife." "Do not go near your wife." "Do not go after your wife." Those kinds of translations. But it doesn't say wife here. It could mean wife, but it very specifically says here, Isha, the woman. So why this strange insertion here? What is this? So, there are many who would make this to be something that it's not, which we will discuss in just a moment. But the point is this. Here's the point. And we'll start with this. Everyone has an agenda. Every person has an agenda. You have something that you are after. You have something that you are chasing. You have something that you want. In both realms, in both the Nefesh Bechama, your earthly instinct, your animal instinct, your attachment to the earth, and in the Nefesh Shemayim, in your heavenly instinct, in your spiritual life. We have agendas. We are agenda-driven. And so that's what we're going to discuss. You had a point. Yeah, or a question? Or?
No, I thought you were asking specifically.
Oh.
You're a woman. I was taking it very literally.
No, it was, what kind of question is that?
Rhetorical.
Thank you. Not expecting an answer. No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I'm glad you're on your toes. So, do not go near a woman. What does this have to do with God coming down on the mountain? What does this have to do? Why do I say this is about agendas?
Stay pure.
To stay pure, yep. In effect, to stay pure. But what is purity? And here's the rabbis speak to this. That this is strange in that they put it this way, that in the determination that Isha can be a wife, it can be your wife. So he's saying it is already wrongful for you to approach one who is not your wife. Whether one is married or not married, it is wrong to approach one who is not your wife. If it is a young, unmarried man and woman, or I guess old as well, but usually we think of this in the terms of youth, that a young man has relations with a young woman. They are not married, neither one of them are married. This is the term called fornication. Adultery has a duality to it. Adultery encompasses, and we'll talk about this when we get into the Devarim, into the 10 words, into the 10 commandments. That adultery has a duality to it, in that adultery literally covers all sexual sin. All sexual sin is covered through adultery. But then we can minimize it. We can take it from the macro to the micro, from the macro of covering all sexual sin to the micro of that of a person who is married having sexual relations with someone other than their husband or wife. And that is adultery. And this is the sin for which the penalty for adultery, for this sin, is death. Death by stoning. And so there is that going on. But we understand that both of those, whether it is fornication or whether it is adultery, this is all forbidden. This is all contrary to Torah. The relationship between a husband and wife is a sacred thing. And in fact, it is commanded. Not recommended, not suggested, it is commanded. In fact, Rav Shaul tells us in the Brit Chadashah that the bed is an honorable place for the husband and the wife. That the sexual union, the sexual relationship between the husband and the wife is a thing of honor. And yet, you use the term to stay pure. What do we mean to stay pure? The nether parts of the human body are considered to be tamai, unclean. Not just in the physical sense, but also in the spiritual sense. And in fact, the nether regions, the lower portion of the body, is called, in Scripture, is called shame. So that a prostitute is said to have uncovered her shame. We don't have time to get into the significance of this morning, but just understanding the idea that is going on here. This is why we cover up. This is why nothing else we cover up the genitalia. Because this is a place of shame. It is a place not to be seen. We call it the private parts. And yet, the bed is honorable and is not defiled between a husband and wife. And in fact, the relationship, the physical relationship between a husband and wife not only is not considered shameful, it is considered honorable, and it is commanded. In Bereshit, the book of Genesis, chapter 1, not chapter 1, let me see, I think chapter 2, verse 24 and 25. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become echad. The same word that we use in the Shema, Shema Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. And we translate that as what? One. So it states here that they shall become one flesh. Let me, if you would, give me just a second here real quick. See, they need music to play in the background at times like this. We have an assembly of clowns.
Just happy people.
Yes. Are you happy?
Yes.
All right. So, he says here, Al Ya'asav Ish, the man, et Avin ve'et imo ve'davach ve'ishtu, his wife, ve'hayu levasher echad. So I'm reading it to you straight from the Hebrew. There you hear the word. The very last word that I gave you is what? Echad. So, Luvasad. Basad means flesh. Livasad, from flesh, echad, of one. The same term that is used for Adonai, for Elohim, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And here we have plurality within singularity, like we spent so much time in our Judaism 101 class, you remember. Those of you who have been paying attention to that class, who have been listening online, or who attend the class, we spent a great deal of time speaking of the plurality within the singularity. That God is one, and yet there is a plurality to Him. And we call this, this mystery, we call it the Ein Sof. Ein Sof, the infinite one. The God who is infinite. That He has no boundaries. That when God appears to Moshe in the burning bush, and Moshe says, "Whom shall I say has sent me?" And God responds to Moshe, "Yigeh asher yigeh." Tell them, Yigeh has sent you. And most of the time, most translations of our scriptures, of Exodus, translate that as saying, "I am that I am." Say that I am have sent you. The problem is this: Yigeh asher yigeh. Yigeh is not the present tense. Yigeh is the future tense. So He's not saying, "I am that I am." Asher, literally, which. So He's not saying, "I am which I am." He says, Yiyeh, I will be, Asher, which Yiyeh, I will be. Therefore tell them, Yiyeh has sent you, I will be. If someone tells you, I will be, which I will be, put it more correctly in English, I will be what I will be, what are they saying to you? How many of you remember the old song, Que Sera, Sera? Que Sera, Sera. See, we're in the singing mood today. Whatever will be, will be.
I am that I am.
I am that I am that I am.
Nacho Libre or what? Anyway, I am.
That's it up. I'm singing Popeye.
So, but He says, Yiyeh asher yiyeh, I will be whatever I will be.
No limitation.
No limitations. God is telling Moshe, do not put me in a box. This is why you may not make images of God. This is what the second commandment is about. You may not form Him up. Why? Because He will be whatever He will be. How does He appear to Moshe here?
Burning bush.
As a flame of fire in a burning bush that is not consumed. Yet, the scripture says in the book of Deuteronomy that He is an all-consuming fire. But the bush is not consumed. Don't put Him in a box. He will be what He will be. So when the rabbis say, when there are rabbis who say, well, God could not take on human form. What do you mean He could not take on human form? Yiyeh asher yiyeh. He will be what He will be. Don't put Him in a box. Some rabbis I have spoken to, and they say, well, why would God? God would not do this. God would not put on a human form. The response, Yiyeh asher yiyeh. He will be what He will be. Don't put Him in a box. How do you know what God will be and what He will not be, what He would do and what He would not do? He tells us very clearly and very distinctly that do not consider Him, do not think of Him as though He does the acts of a man. Because you would not do something does not mean He would not do something. As we have been studying last week in our Judaism 101 class, God is not emotion driven. God is will driven, which is what we're going to study today. God is driven not by emotions but by will. We are driven by emotion. But God is driven by will. He says, your thoughts are not my thoughts, and your ways are not my ways. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my thoughts above your thoughts, and as separated as the east is from the west, so are my ways from your ways. Who am I to say that God cannot do this or cannot do that? Who am I to say that God should not or would not do this or that? Yet should be, yet he will be what he will do. So we have what is called plurality in singularity. We have what is called complexity within simplicity. That the Ein Sof, in effect, is simple in form. He only becomes complex to us as we begin to try to define him. As we begin to outline him, try to understand him, then it becomes complex. That he is single in entity is the Ein Sof. But we know that he has more than one representations of himself. That he can represent himself in more than one way. And so you have, within the singularity of it, you have a plurality. This is the term echad. Within the singularity of the union, there is a duality, there is a plurality, saying what? You have one couple, one union, the husband and the wife together are one. But what? There is a plurality, that they are two persons involved in this single union. Thus the word basar echad, one flesh. And the rabbis teach us that it is the act of the sexual union and the creation of new life, the making of a baby, that is actually the fulfillment, the completion of this union. Now I'm laying this all out before you to explain to us that the sexual union between a husband and wife is good, is honorable, it is sacred, and it is commanded. It is commanded that a husband and a wife are to have relations with one another for the fulfillment, the joy of one another, to be a fulfillment to one another, and also to bring forth new life. For what is the command of God to Adam and Chava? What is the commandment of God?
Be fruitful and multiply.
To be fruitful and multiply. And the rabbis say that this applies to every married couple. The first command for a married couple is to bring forth children. This is the purpose of the home, to raise children, to bring new life into the world. In this we are acting as B'Tselem Elohim. We are acting in the image of God. God is the great creator, and He brought forth life through His image. Not that we are gods. Never mistake that. We are not, we cannot, we will not be gods ever, ever, ever. But the image of God is impressed upon us, so that we follow in His footsteps, meaning as He created life, so we bring forth life into the world. This is our mission, to bring forth new life. So why am I saying all of this? Again, to show to you that the bed is honorable and undefiled, that the union between the husband and wife is a sacred obligation. It is a duty, it is a responsibility, not only in the Tanakh, not only in Torah, but also in the Brit Chadashah, as we will see in a little bit. And we're to be faithful to this relationship. But here in Shemot, chapter 19, Exodus chapter 19 and verse 15, it is not just that which is contrary to God's Torah which is forbidden here, but all relational union, even the union between the husband and wife for these 3 days is forbidden. Do not go near any woman, not even your wife. Not even your wife. Why? There are those who would say that, you see, the Bible is a misogynist book. The Bible is all about male dominancy. It's all about the man. The woman is a second-class citizen. Actually not. A woman may be unclean for the time of her menses. A man is unclean every morning. What is it that makes a woman unclean in her menses? It is the flow, the blood. Why? Well, particularly because the body is flushing out, is washing out an egg that has died. The egg is intended to bring forth life, but it has remained unseminated, therefore it dies. And upon its death, as it is flushed out of the body. And death, that which brings forth death, and that which has died, is unclean in a spiritual way. It's not a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual nature. Thus, that which has brought forth life has rather died and is being flushed, being removed from the body. If that egg were to stay within the body of the woman, what would happen? The woman would get infected. She could turn septic, and she herself could die. And so the body has this means of which flushing out the egg which is died. It is for this reason that the woman is unclean. Because if you touch something that is dead, what does the Torah say? If you have touched something that is dead, you yourself are unclean. Whether it is a dead animal or a dead human being or a dead what? So this cell that is being flushed from the body is a living organism that has died, that was meant to create life, but it has died and being flushed, therefore it is unclean. So we would say that once a month, that the woman is unclean. She's not to have relations with her husband for 7 days, and then after she makes mikvah, she washes herself, then she may have relations with her husband once again. Doctors tell us that this is actually a very healthy thing for the part of the woman, not for the part of the man. What does it do to a man if he has sexual relations with a woman who is in her period? It does nothing to him. For the wife, what? Having relations with a man, and all of that is being pushed back up into her body. It's trying to escape the body. It's not good for her health. Things can happen. So God has reasons for what He's saying, what He's doing. As well, the uterus and the womb, they need the time to recuperate, to restore from this. Many women will tell you that this time, this period, is painful. There's bloating that takes place, and then the issuing of blood. Some women will even, my wife sometimes would faint from the loss of blood. And so this gives the body an opportunity. Why 7 days? It's giving the body the opportunity to heal, to restore, to come back. God's a genius. And so these kinds of rules are not about making the woman dirty or making sex dirty or that she's unclean, she's a second-class citizen. When you understand Torah, where these things are rooted, you understand that God is in fact protecting the women. So why are we getting into all of this? Well, because as we started, the woman is unclean for one time out of the month. But the man is unclean every time he has an emission. Because anything that emits is considered unclean. This is why every morning the first thing an Orthodox Jewish man does is he makes a mikvah for his hands. Saying what? The first thing every morning that a Jewish man does, he says the Modeh Ani as he's laying in bed. He gets up out of bed, and the first thing he does is he pours the water over his hands, making a mikvah for his hands. Why? Because you do not know where your hands have been in the night. And it is possible for a man to have a nightly emission and not be in control of it. It is a process, it is a bodily function, and the man has emission, and his hands are there, and now his hands are unclean. This is what the hand washing is about. This is what the morning hand washing is about.
And he's unclean until evening.
And he's unclean until evening. Now, when a man and a woman have a sexual relationship, the man emits into the woman. That which is emitted is unclean. You say, but it's bringing forth life. Yes. This is the complexity within the simplicity. This is the ashes of the red heifer. The red heifer is sacrificed, correct? What is the purpose of the red heifer? To sanctify against death. Thus everything must be purified. All of the temple objects, all of the priests, the Levites, all of these, they must be sanctified by the ashes of the red heifer. Problem. If the red heifer, not a trick question, if the red heifer is sacrificed, is it dead or is it alive? But we said that that which is dead brings what? Makes what? Unclean. Then how can this dead animal make it clean? When touching it, makes unclean. You say, that's kind of difficult to figure out. And you're right. Even the rabbis have not figured it out. These are laws which we do not understand that God has given to us. So how is that which brings life also bring about impurity? Yes.
Well, when the law was given, God said, "This is an ordinance I'm making." Kind of like saying, it's this way because I said it's this way.
Exactly. There are two types of laws in the Torah. Those for which God has given explanation, and those for which He does not give explanation. Those for which He gives explanation, saying, these are the rules, and this is why these are the rules. But then He gives laws for which there are no explanation. He simply says, these are the rules, do it. You as a parent, do you ever tell your child that? It is as God saying what? When the child says why, and you say, because I said so. He gives you no explanation. How is it that this which is bringing forth life is actually considered to be defiled, to be unclean? We don't know. But it is so. By Torah. Thus, why does Moshe say here not to go near a woman? Because if the husband has relation with his wife, he emits into her, he makes her unclean. It is not that she's unclean, it's that he's unclean. That his emission is unclean, he emits into her, she becomes unclean. Now what? He can go in the morning and he can appear before God, he can appear before Hashem. She may not be able to do so because now she's unclean. You see what I'm saying here? God is protecting the woman. God is saying, I want both the men and the women to appear before me. Therefore, men, do not emit into a woman. Do not make her unclean, so that she also may come and stand before me. God's protecting the woman. So He says, do not go near a woman. There's a secondary reason for all of this. We have within us the two nefeshim, the two instincts, the nefesh bechama and the nefesh shemayim. The animal instinct and the godly instinct, the heavenly instinct. All of us have this within us. We have this duality. Again, you have the singularity. I am a single person, but I have a plurality. I have a simplicity, but I have a complexity. The complexity, the duality, the plurality is that I have two instincts. The animal kingdom, your dog, your cat, your sheep, they only have one instinct. They only have nefesh bechama. That's why it's called nefesh bechama. Bechama means animal. They have an animal soul, an animal instinct. That is, that they are instinct driven. The malachim, the angels of heaven, they only have a spiritual instinct. So they are spiritually driven. You say even the fallen ones. Yes, even the fallen ones. As Rosh says, what? That this is a spiritual warfare, not a physical warfare. That there's a warfare taking place in the heavens that is spiritual in nature. Why? Because they do not have an animal instinct. They do not have the physical instinct. Thus that war is spiritual in its nature. We, as human beings, we are the connector. We are the vav. What is a vav? What does vav mean? Nail, a connector. So the vav is used as a prefix to pronouns or to nouns, saying and, to connect this and that. Thus, vav is the sixth letter. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. Vav is the sixth letter. 6 being the number of man. 6 is the number of man. Why? Because man was created on the 6th day. And so man is the connection between the physical and the spiritual. We are the conduit between the two realms, between the two worlds. Thus God has made man with both the nefesh bechama and the nefesh shemayim. He has made man with both the physical instinct and the spiritual instinct. Rav Shaul speaks to this. We have spoken to this often. Rav Shaul speaks to this in the book of Romans chapter 7, when he says that we have dual natures, that we have the natural and the spiritual. I have the natural me, the physical me, and I have the spiritual me. The natural me is the nefesh bechama, the old nature, the old man, who is dominated by instinct, who is instinctual in his nature. This is the me that is attached to the earth. This is the me who, when I get hungry, what? I eat. When I'm thirsty, what? When I want this or I want that, I satisfy my desires. But I also have a spiritual me, and the spiritual me is inclined to heaven. I have a space in me, I have a desire, a craving in me for God. And every human being is created with this duality, this complexity. So you remember that famous passage there where Rav Shaul says, those things which I would do, those things I find I do not do. And the things which I would not do, those are the things that I find that I do. So I find this law that there is a war taking place within me, the old nature against contrary to the new nature. The natural contrary to the spiritual. And he goes on to warn us that we are not to allow the natural to reign over us, but rather the spiritual. That we're not to allow the old nature, but rather the new nature. Saying that we are not to allow the physical, the instinctual, to reign over the spiritual. But that the spiritual should reign over the instinctual. The physical. Saying what? The body is not to tell the heart, the mind, the soul what to do, but rather the heart and the mind are to keep the body in line, to keep the body in check. That the body is the servant. That the heart and the mind are the power. Which is stronger in us? Which is stronger in you, the physical or the spiritual? The instinctual or the heavenly? The one you feed. Saying what? The more that I give in to my body, the more I give in to the flesh, to the physical, the stronger the flesh becomes. The more I allow the flesh to reign, to tell me what to do, the more that I live according to the determination of my instincts, the more the instincts will rule over me. the more I allow God, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, through Torah, to rule over my life, the more that the spiritual realm reigns over me. The more the spiritual instinct rules over me. So, saying what we just said, which one rules? Which dog wins the fight? The one you feed. And this is why Moshe Rabbeinu is saying here, don't go near a woman. For 3 days. Look, for 3 days, no sexual relations. Why? Because she can become a distraction to you. If you have ever been to an Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox synagogue, Old Orthodox, or if you have seen pictures, you will see that there's a barrier that runs down the middle of the synagogue that is about head high. This barrier runs down the middle of the synagogue. On the one side, sit the Ishaot, and on the other side, sit the Ishim. On the one side, sit the women, on the other side, sit the men. This is true not only in Orthodox Judaism, it is also true in Orthodox Christianity. And there are still such groups today as Mennonite, Amish, Orthodox, the Old Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, and such as that, where there's a separation and division. The Old Catholic Church used to do the same. The Old Anabaptists used to do the same. That there was a division, that the women would sit on one side and the men would sit on another. Why? Well, I remember growing up in church as a teenager. You know how teenagers are.
Why don't you tell us?
I will tell you in song. The boys watch the girls, they watch the boys, they watch the girls go by. Anybody remembers that old song? Oh my goodness.
You're old.
It's not that old, that's 60s right there, alright? So it's not that old. The reason why I know that song is because my brothers used to sing. He used to come on the radio. We'd be out there at this time of year. We'd be out there picking cotton with the little transistor radios, right? And so we'd have our little transistor. One of the brothers would bring out his transistor. We'd only use one because you didn't want everybody with a transistor radio. Those little they ran on the 9-volt batteries. Those were kind of expensive, and so you only used one at a time. So one brother would he would get to put the radio on whatever radio station. But anyway, that's a different story. So what are the boys and the girls doing? They're watching each other. They're looking at each other. He's cute. She's pretty. So I'm sitting there in church, and this cute teenage girl comes walking in. Ooh la la. I wonder if she'd be up for a date. I wonder if she thinks I'm cute. I wonder if I asked her out, she'd say yes. And I sit there and I spend the rest of the service wondering. And the girl's sitting there, what? Oh, look, he's cute. I wonder if I can get his attention. I wonder if he thinks that I'm cute. I wonder if he'll ask me out. I wonder if he has a girlfriend. And she spends the whole service doing what? Not worshiping God. Not there for which we are to be there. I knew of a young man, young 20s, some, who attended for a while, and he stopped attending. Someone saw him one day and said, "Why did you stop attending?" He said, "There's no women there my age." Oh, so that's why we're attending. I have heard many, believe me, I have heard many young people say those words. There's no girls there. Well, there's girls. Yeah, but they're either old or still on the bottom. Not my type, this and that. There's no guys there. Nobody there I would want to date. Nobody there I would want to. Oh, I see, so that's our purpose in being here. This is why the Orthodox community separates the men and the women. Why? That's not why you are here. And if you're sitting together, there is a greater chance that there will be a distraction from your service unto God. When we come here, it is called avodah. It is translated worship. Literally, it means a servant doing his or her job, work. If you go to Israel and you hear in Hebrew that they're speaking, and they will use the term avodah, that they're going to work. As in when they get up on Sunday morning, actually, they get up and they go to work, to avodah. They're going to work. They're going to their place of service. Not talking about church or synagogue or assembly or what have you. The word avodah means to work. And remember for whom it is that we're working. Who's coming down on the mountain here? Who is it? This is Hashem himself. This is the King of Kings, the King of all ages, the creator of the universe. And they are going to stand before him. They're going to meet him face to face, saying, what? There is no room here for distraction. They must give him their fully undivided attention. This is why the Orthodox community is divided, the women on one side, the men on the other, so that I will not be distracted, that I may give my full devotion to God. Because that's why I'm here. Remember how I started out the teaching this morning. Everybody, every person has an agenda. What is yours? What is your agenda? You see, the purpose of not going near a woman, the purpose of putting the relationship to the side for these 3 days is exactly that. To put my agenda to the side. Why? Because God has his own agenda, and that is the agenda that I'm to be following, not my own. Saying what? I have what I would like to see happen. I would like things to happen in my life. Well, if you want something to happen in your life, what do? You chase it. No? Saying what? Well, let's go back to our teenagers. The boy wants the girl. He has an agenda, does he not? He wants a girl. He wants a girlfriend. Therefore, he has an agenda. Because he has an agenda, he has this in front of him. This is his goal. What is his goal? His goal is to get that girl for himself. Thus, what does he do? He chases that goal. He goes after it. So what does he do? He approaches the girl. He speaks to her. They chit-chat. He's feeling her out mentally. Seeing what kind of girl she is, how she responds to him. He's looking for those signs. And if there's a little spark there, what? Well, the next time he'll come up and he'll say, hey, would you like a piece of cake? And she says, oh, how sweet. As they used to say back in our generation, get cute. The next time what? He approaches her and he says, hey, I'd like to talk to you sometime in the week. Can I have your phone number? Hey, I remember this one real well. Hey, we have church again tonight. Would you sit with me? Sure. Let's share a hymn book. Do we use my Bible or your Bible?
All of that makes it official before God.
Ha. You see what I'm saying? There's an agenda here. There's a goal that is driving what's taking place, even in a spiritual location, even in a place like this. The question is, what is driving you? What is your agenda? You see, we all claim spirituality. But is it? Or is there something else taking place? That's what this is all about. This is all about setting aside your agenda so that you might accomplish, so that God's agenda will be accomplished in you. Setting aside your goals so that you might accomplish the goals that God has. By the way, this is pure tree of life. Because when we go into Yesod, Yesod is called the bridge. We go into Netzach. And Netzach is learning how to give up myself so that God has all of the control of my life. My pride, my ego, my agenda, my self-will, my self-determination. That I literally allow myself, my esteem, myself to be killed, to be vanquished, in order that the will of God be seen, that the nature of God be seen in my life. Do you want to approach God?
Yes.
Do you want to approach God?
Yes.
Then you must put down your agenda. You must put down your goals and your will and your self-esteem and the things about you. It's about me. I'm saying, my life is about me, but if I want to approach God, I must put down my agenda and take up His. I must put down my pride. I must take off pride. So that the prophet Jeremiah says that if a man will humble himself, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek my face, I would hear their prayer from heaven. The reason why God does not hear our prayer is exactly this, because I have an agenda. And God does not answer agenda-driven prayer. God answers prayer according to His will. Absolutely. God does not answer prayer so that I might receive honor or prestige or glory, that I might be built up in other people's eyes in any way, form, or fashion. Why? Because the glory belongs to Him, and He says, I am a jealous God, and I share my glory with no one. The reason why God answers your prayer is so that He might be glorified through you. But if I have an agenda, who's glorified? Come on, it's not a trick question, not hard. If I have an agenda, who's glorified?
Yeah.
You see, if it is my pride and myself being lifted up, it's not God who's being glorified. This is why God does not answer so many prayers. I hear people say all the time, I even hear preachers, pastors. I heard of a very well-known pastor saying one time, I do not know why God does not answer prayer. I do not know why God does not answer prayer. I can tell you why God does not answer prayer. God does not answer prayer because we pray in a self-seeking, self-serving way, and God does not answer those prayers. We've been taught that if you stick on the name, to pray in Jesus' name, right? If you stick on the name of Jesus at the end of your prayer, in Jesus' name I pray, that, boom, He's going to answer your prayer, because He says, whatsoever you ask in my name, it will be given to you. But they're misunderstanding what He's saying. When you ask in His name, that is that you are asking in accordance to His will, that this is what He's desiring, not what you're desiring of yourself. This is what He's desiring of you. In other words, when I pray, I am asking. How do we start off? Avinu Shemayi. Yikadeshcha. Our Father, which art in heaven, holy is your name. Next part with me. Your kingdom come. Say it with me. Your kingdom come. What? Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You see, this is the way we're supposed. That's why Yeshua said to pray this way. This is the formula for your prayer. Number one, you're acknowledging that He is holy. Number two, you're acknowledging that He is the King. And number three, you're acknowledging that it is His will that is to be done, not my own will. Saying what? I am agenda-driven. But it's my agenda. And the whole purpose of this is to say, put down your agenda. When you pray, if you want God to answer your prayer, you must be in line with Him, with His will. This is Tree of Life. This is what the Tree of Life is all about. How do you get into the will of God? What is the will of God? We use the term justified. Used greatly in church and Christianity, justified. What does this term mean? Justified. En español, justo. Justificación. ¿Qué es justificación? What is this to be justified?
Supporting your actions with an argument.
Or to be made right?
It means literally to be in line, to line up with. So, you took typing class? I took typing classes back when we still had typewriters, right? I took typing class my junior year of high school. In the middle of the school year, we went from the old manuals to the electric. We had the first electric typewriters. Those things were fun because they sounded like machine guns. You see, the manual typewriter, you had to press on the key. You had to use pressure, right? And so you would hit it with it, and it was hard to get up to 50, 60, 70 words per minute when you're having to put all that pressure on the girls and their poor fingernails. I mean, just about every class you'd see this fingernail popping off going flying across the room. Girls would literally come into class with Band-Aids on their fingers to keep their nail. Either they broke their nail the last session or to keep their nails from breaking. Because you had to put pressure on the keys. They came up with the electric typewriter, and it's like your keyboard on your laptop, on your computer. There's no, I mean, it's just like. And what was really cool, but it made this because the hammer was still hitting the tape, right? The same way, you still had the hammer with the letter engraved on it, and it was hitting the tape and taking the ink and impressing it on the paper. So it was still a typewriter. And then they came out with the balls with the letters on it, and it went. But what was really cool is if you took like the key and you just one key and you just held it down, and it would sound like a machine gun. And when everybody in the class did that all at the same time,
the teacher was so proud.
Yes, we were a good class, fun class. We were a bunch of cowboy country hits. You would set your margin. How many of you have used a typewriter? You would set the margin. It was a little silver thing. It had a little squeeze button, and you would push it, and you would move the margin back and forth, and you had the two margins, right? And you would set the margin. This one could go all the way to the end of the page, but you would set it in a certain point, and when you were typing, when you got to that point, it was time to return, right? So the little bell would go off, ding! That was always a fun sounding class too, because you'd hear ding, 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 as everybody's getting to the end of their sentence, the end of their page, whatever, where their margin is set. And then what? You hit the return, and the roller would turn to the next slide, and you start typing again until you hear another ding, and then you hit the return again. On this side over here, however, what? You see over here, it was all scattered. The right side of the page, right? Where your sentences were ending or whatever, it was all scattered. Wherever you could make the break, that's where you made the break. You tried to finish the word, put as many words in that line as possible, and then you'd hit the return. But this side over here, all of the letters were in a column. They were all lined up. How many of you remember that?
Yeah.
And this is called left justified. If you go to Word processor, if you go to Word, up at the top on your toolbox, you will have a picture, an icon that has like a page with, and it has here on this side, the left is all lined up. Here's called center, and so everything is centered, and then you have right where everything on the right is lined up. This is called left justified, center justified, and right justified. Left justified, meaning everything on the left side of the page is going to be in line. Center justified, meaning that the middle word, the very center letter of every word of the sentence will be justified. Right justified, so that everything in the right side, on the right column, the right margin, will be in line. So it means to be in line. So it means to be in line. When I say I am justified, what am I saying? I'm saying I am in line. This is the only way that your prayers may flow to God and the blessings may flow from God to you. Saying, this is the only way that God hears your prayer and answers your prayer, is if you are justified, that is, you are lined up with Him. For example, if you make a pipe to run water to your house, what happens if the pipe is broken? What happens if this part of the pipe is here and this part of the pipe is here? How does the water flow? The water can flow from the source, true? The water flows from the source, from the meter. But does it get into your house? No. In order for the water to reach your house, what? The pipes must be lined up correctly to be a conduit to allow the water to flow. The only way that you receive the benefit of the water from the meter is for the pipes to be in line. This is justified. This is what the word justified means, that it lines up. If you want God to hear your prayer, your life must be lined up with His requirements, with His instructions. If you wish God to answer your prayer, your will must be lined up with His will. But God does not change. He does not move. God's will does not change. It does not move. Therefore what? Who must do the changing and who must do the moving?
We do.
I must do the changing and I must do the moving. It has been said that we do not pray in order to change God's mind. We pray in order for God to change ours. We do not pray. The purpose of prayer is not to change the will of God. The purpose of prayer is to change my will, that I might line up with Him, because He does not change. Saying all of that to say this: in order for me to line up with God, I must put to the side that which interferes. The reason why God instructed that the men were not to have relations with the women for these 3 days was so that there would not be this distraction, this interference. So how many of you, when you pray, you're there and you say, Heavenly Father, I thank you for today. I ask that you would bless today. May it be a good day. Father, at work, I've got, well, that's a good song on the radio. Yeah, I like that song. Oh yeah, where was that? Thank you, Father, for... Oh, look, that guy almost hit that car.
Remember why you shouldn't be praying in the car.
Do you ever... How about this one? How about this? You're there and you're there praying and your favorite commercial comes on the TV. Oh yeah, I like that commercial. This is the one I have fun with, where I'm praying and all of a sudden I'm thinking about this problem that I have further on in the day. And I'm sitting there dwelling on that problem like for 5 minutes, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm praying. And so I come back to it. Do you ever pray like that? Okay, so women, tell me something. You're on a date with a boy, your husband, whomever. He takes you to a nice restaurant. So this is a question for the women. He takes you to a nice restaurant. You're sitting there with the menu. He looks at the menu for a minute, and then he does this. Hey. Marcy said, Boker, Shabbat. Let's see what else do. Raul, he's posting again in the assembly page. Like 3 times.
No doubt.
Oh wow, Israel liked something I put. Today's Cheryl's birthday. Wow. Melody likes a photo I shared. Wow. And the lady, you're sitting there, and you're saying, I don't know what to pick. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh wow. What did you say something? Now, ladies, you know what I'm driving at, right? You're sitting there eating, and he's there eating, and he's there like
Distracted.
So how do you feel when your husband or your boyfriend or what have you, you're sitting there, you're trying to have a conversation, you're on his date, and you're doing these kinds of things, and he's sitting there looking at his phone the whole time?
You want his phone to my
True or not true?
Yep.
But the shoe goes on the other foot too. I love it when I go out, when I take my wife out to a restaurant and I see these young couples. And it's like the boy's off in his corner doing his thing, and the girl's off in her corner doing this thing. Oh yeah, we had a great day. Yeah. Your marriage is going to last like 3 months. Because you don't know how to communicate. You communicate with emoji. Nor does God appreciate it when you're supposed to be having a date with Him, having a relation with Him, having a time of conversation with Him, and you're constantly distracted. That's what this is about. Put down your agenda, your distractions, and focus your full attention on Him. In a few weeks, my wife and I will be celebrating our 38th anniversary. 38 years we've been married. As old as I am, I still remember the wedding day. I remember everything about that day. It was a crazy day. Most of it, no, I don't want to relive it. My wife and her sisters sent me fishing with one of the guys to get me out of their hair, to get me out of the house. But what I really remember is when we got to the church. Well, I'm ADHD among other things, and I get the fidgets really, really bad. And I pace. And I was pacing and pacing and pacing and pacing. My hands were shaking so bad that I had gone into the men's room to put my tie on, and I couldn't, the little bow tie with the tucks, and I couldn't fasten it in the back. My hands were shaking, I couldn't get the snap. And I asked my brother, I went outside and asked my brother, get in here, help me. So he came in, and he's fastening it in the back. And I'm there, and I'm doing this with my hands, and I'm shaking. And he says, are you scared? I said, yes. He says, are you scared? Are you like afraid of what you're doing? No. He said, are you like having second thoughts? I said, no, that's not. I'm just nervous about standing in front of all these people and having to kiss this girl in front of everybody. I remember that day. I remember coming out of the front of the church, standing in front of the pulpit. I remember the bridesmaids coming down the aisle. I remember seeing as two young men opened the double doors. In the bridal march, the beginning of the bridal march began to be played, and she stepped into the doorway. I remember the look on her face. And I can tell you from that moment to the end of the ceremony, she had my fully undivided attention. I could not take my eyes off of her. I spoke my vows to her. She spoke her vows to me. She had my attention. No other thought was in my mind. While I was there. How many Shabbaton, how many Shabbats come by when we come into this building? And our minds are often the wildly young. Instead of focusing on the words that are in front of us, to what is here at hand. This song, this blessing, this bracha. How many times when we are off, when we're having our prayer time, our time with God, yet our minds are wandering here and there. We're distracted with the radio, we're distracted with the television, with the sound of people, the neighbors, the kids, the parents, the husband, the wife, whomever it might be, and we're just totally distracted, and we forget what we're doing, we forget where we are. How do we say that we are losing ourselves in Him? How do we say that we're not driven by our own agendas when this is our normal life, and this is our normal Shabbat, and this is the normal way that we live and do with Him? We are that young man, that young lady sitting there at the table with our cell phone, looking at Facebook and paying all attention to everything else that everybody else is commenting and this and that and the other, while we're neglecting the person for whom we're supposed to be there. The whole reason why it says for 3 days do not go near a woman is to say this: lose your distractions and focus your attention on what is at hand. Focus your attention on God and on His will, and on that alone. Be as lasered into Him as you would be to your husband, to your wife, standing at the altar. We close with this. And by the way, Paul agrees with this. He says this in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. He says, now concerning the things about which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. But because of much immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Let the husband fulfill his obligation to his wife, the sexual relationship. Let the husband fulfill his obligation to his wife, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have the right to her own body, but the husband. Likewise also the husband does not have the right to his own body, but the wife. Now look at verse 5. Do not deprive one another, except by mutual consent for a time, that you may devote yourself to prayer. What? There comes a time when, yes, you must part from one another for a period of time so that you can focus your attention on God and not be distracted. And then what? Come together again. So that Satan does not tempt you by lack of self-control. Saying what? You see, Shaul is remembering what Moshe said there at Sinai. Come apart. For a while. Just you and God. Face to face. There is in Judaism this idea called hitbodedut. Can you say that? Hitbodedut. Hitbodedut. Hitbodedut means isolation. Because we are taught in Judaism that we're not monastic, we do not live in monasteries, we're not monks, we do not isolate ourselves from society, rather we pour ourselves into society. So what? Saying, no, you're not supposed to go out there and live for 40 years in the woods all by yourself, never seeing another human being. We are called to be a light to the world, and you can't be a light to the world if you're not anywhere near anybody else. You cannot shine the light for someone else if you're not near someone else. You're just shining a light on yourself. And basically, that is a form of selfishness. But there is this thing where, yes, we are supposed to isolate ourselves from everything. We are to find the most quietest, most isolated place that we possibly can. And it is called hitbodedut, so that we may focus all of our attention on our conversation with God. Meaning what? This is where you, by the way, it's not the bathroom. I read women going to the bathroom for their prayer time, and of course that's when the kid knocks on the door, right? This is where you turn off your cell phone, you won't die. I told you before the story, I'm allowed to tell blonde jokes because I is one, of the blonde who was on the airplane and she had her recorder with her and she had her earphones in, right? She's sitting there on the plane getting ready to take off, and the stewardess comes up to her and says, ma'am, you're going to have to turn off your recorder, remove the earphones and take off the recorder. She says, I can't. And the stewardess says, you have to, we cannot leave unless you do. She says, I can't. What do you mean you can't? She says, I'll die. She says, what do you mean you'll die? She says, I'll die. She says, ma'am, you have to turn off your recorder, take your earphones out, so we can pull away and we can take off. She says, I can't, I'll die. Back and forth and back and forth. Finally, the stewardess got upset. Must have been United Airlines. The stewardess got upset. Yanked the earphones out of her head, yanked them out of her head, and the blind woman, she died. And the stewardess says, what in the world? And she put the earplug in and it says, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. What am I saying? If you turn this contraption off for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, it's not going to kill you. You will not die. Turn your TV off. Turn everything off. The radio. You say, but it's Christian music. No, it becomes a distraction. Because your mind starts following the song rather than your conversation with God. JC's here this morning. My Bubba. He's my adopted son. Will and I took the boys on a trip to New Mexico. A camping trip to New Mexico. Up with my brother David. He had a gold mine up there. He had gold claims up there, and so we went up there to pan for gold. JC went with us because he's my adopted son. He went on all our trips. And rule number 1, JC, you remember? Rule number 1, no electronics. They were not allowed to take their Game Boys. They were not allowed to take electronics. We were getting away from everything. Away from everything. It was JC and Richard and Joshua. And we're going out. We were literally going back into the mountains. And we were going to stay in one of those little cabins. No electronics. The boys were not happy. They were not happy at all. They tried to smuggle. We unsmuggled. I am Border Patrol trained. I know how to do this. We got all of their electronic devices, got them put in a suitcase. They could play with their electronic devices on the way up and on the way back, but while we were at the campsite, no. We took them away. The first day, you would have thought that we had just been the most meanest, horriblest, ugliest parents that ever lived. And man, they talked bad to us, they talked ugly to each other, they were on each other's backs, it was this, it was that. They were walking around like this without any controls because they're just so used to doing this. The second day, it settled down a little bit. The third day, it was cool. You're addicted to this. How many of you get home and you say, man, what's on Facebook? I gotta see what's on Facebook, what's on Facebook, what's on Facebook? How many of you get on this and you're there like this, and you're there like this, and you're there like, stupid phone! The internet won't work. I don't know what's wrong with AT&T or whoever, Sprint or... What I'm saying is this. Learn to put it down. Learn to turn it off. Why? You say, well, what if somebody calls? Well, they can't call you back. They can't leave a message. You know, when you turn your phone off, it just goes straight to voicemail. They can text you. You'll still get the text. It's not like back in the old days. The rotary telephone. We didn't have these kinds of things. Emilio doesn't even know what it's like to be alive without a cell phone. I remember the day when they did not even have answering machines or voice machines. You had a telephone. We had a telephone that hung on the wall. And it had the little dial, and you had to dial GA3.
You had to leave it off the hook.
Leave it off the hook. We were on a what do you call it, line? Party line, and sometimes it was hard to do anything because the other people were on the line. You couldn't use the phone if they were on the line.
The gossip.
Yeah. Well, we did that. There was this guy that lived down the street from us, and he had a girlfriend, and so we would get on and listen to his little spiel, and then we would start making noises and things like that, and he would get mad at us. King, I know it's you. But if you missed the call, you missed the call. That was it. They had to call back. Did we die? Well, I'm still here. You see what I'm saying? We have agendas. There comes a point in time where I need to put to the side everything that is a distraction to me and focus all of my attention on Him, because they are getting ready to meet God Himself face to face. You better be ready. Guess what? You are getting ready to meet the Messiah face to face. You better be ready. He's coming. You better be ready. He is the King. He is the Creator. You better be ready. He comes to judge the earth. Every eye shall see Him. You better be ready. You better have a good relationship with Him. Otherwise, you're going to be answering some questions you may not want to answer. So, let us prepare to meet the King. And this we will do next week. Bien vu? Emilio, would you close in prayer?
Lord, thank you for a great teaching. Let's take it home and help to apply it with our walk with you. Help us to seek you diligently and go home safe.
It's time for the blessing for Shabbat. If you would lift up your hands. Yivarecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha, Yer Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha Shalom. May Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. May Adonai lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace from Sarcha Shalom Yeshua Mashiach, from the Prince of Peace, Yeshua the Messiah. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.